Before we dive in, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like us. I love to see who's watching and know you're on this journey with me. Let's get started and see where this battle takes us. FTL sync at 98%. All ships reporting green. Admiral Kira Voss stood silent on the command deck of the Dauntless, staring out at the shimmering edge of the quantum void. Her hands were clasped behind her back, but her knuckles were white. Outside, 900,000 warships, humanity's vengeance made metal, shuddered as one. A fleet so massive it turned starlight to shadow. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, all she could hear was Earth's final broadcast, the static scream of 3 billion people dying in under 6 minutes. Her wife's voice, swallowed mid-sentence. Her daughter's drawing, still folded in her pocket. FTL sync complete, standing by for jump. Voss didn't move. Her eyes stayed fixed on the void ahead. Somewhere beyond, the Zirathi homeworld waited. Black-scaled monsters with sun-killing weapons and no concept of surrender. They hadn't just attacked Earth, they'd erased it, and now humanity would erase them. "Begin countdown," she said, voice low. "Operation Fall Strike is go! T-minus 30 seconds. Across the fleet, war chants began. On destroyers, gunners slapped ammo belts into place. On carriers, swarms of interceptors blinked to life. Quantum drives pulsed like angry gods, ready to tear spacetime open. In the silence of the void, 900,000 warships prepared to jump as one. All hands brace for jump. "On my mark, then, ma'am," a shout from the comms officer. "Scout Wing Bravo just went dark, no signal, no debris. They were 5 minutes ahead of us." Voss's blood ran cold. Check transponder lag, maybe, "Ma'am, Scout." Wing Delta just blinked out too. Same pattern. Mid-transmission cutoff. No explosions. No escape pods. Just silence. "It's a trap." "No." Voss narrowed her eyes. "It's worse." "Jump!" The Dauntless plunged into quantum space, the rest of the fleet right behind. For 5 seconds, reality shattered. The stars bled sideways. Time unraveled and reformed. And then, the fleet emerged and stopped. They were here. The Zirathi system. The place where Earth's murderers had launched their hellfire. Only, it wasn't. Voss stared at the tactical display. No enemy fleet, no defense grid, no Zirathi homeworld. The planet was gone, vaporized, a broken shell of rock and dust. "Scan the debris," she ordered, voice steady. "What happened here?" Silence. Then, "Ma'am, this wasn't orbital bombardment. This was internal detonation. Controlled, precise. They destroyed their own world." Voss turned to her crew. "Why would they do that?" No one answered. Then the comms officer whispered, "We're getting a signal. It's faint, directional, audio only." Voss nodded. "Play it." A burst of static, then a voice. Broken, layered, not Zirathi. "You came too late. They're gone. And now, so are you." Voss stepped closer to the screen. "Track the signal source." Triangulating. "It's not from this system, ma'am. It's from inside the wormhole behind the 4th moon." Voss froze. There wasn't supposed to be a wormhole, but there it was. Pale, flickering, artificial. "Commander Rix," she said, turning to her second-in-command. "Ready. A recon team. We're going in." "Admiral, if this is bait..." "I know it's bait, but it's also a message." She looked at the stars beyond the glass, then down at the tactical map that showed 900,000 warships with nowhere to go. "They didn't just kill Earth," she said. "They're trying to rewrite what comes next. And if humanity wanted answers, they'd have to follow the enemy into the dark." What did the Zirathi discover? So terrifying they chose extinction over survival. And who sent the signal, claiming to know humanity? Ghost of a war. The warships hung suspended in the black, their engines a muted hum in the vast silence. Admiral Voss stood at the command bridge of the Intrepid, her eyes fixed on the shifting stars outside. The feeling of weightlessness wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Every ship in her fleet, every soldier aboard, shared the same strange emptiness. They had crossed into enemy territory, but there were no enemies to fight, no battle cries, no sounds of war. Status report, hooray. Voice broke through the tension, sharp and commanding. Lieutenant Kova, her tactical officer, turned from the holographic map. Ma'am, no hostile forces detected, Kova said, scanning the data, his brow furrowed. We've entered the Zirathi system. No sign of the fleet. Nothing on our sensors. It's as if the entire planet just vanished. Voss' fist clenched around the arm of her chair. The Zirathi were cunning, unpredictable. They had attacked Earth with terrifying force, wiping out half the population before humanity even had time to react. And now, this. Nothing. Impossible, she muttered under her breath. They're out there. They have to be. Kova's screen flickered. Wait. We're receiving an encrypted transmission. Voss's heart skipped. Put it through. A crackling noise filled the bridge, followed by a voice, distorted but unmistakable. The hunt has begun. Voss straightened, her heart pounding in her chest. Her instincts screamed. It wasn't the Zirathi. This wasn't their doing. The signal cut off abruptly, and a chilling silence followed. Who was that? Kova asked, his voice low. Who just sent that? I don't know. Voss turned to face the room, her mind racing. The transmission wasn't a message. It was a warning. Something else was out there. Something far worse than the Zirathi. Suddenly, the lights on the bridge flickered, casting everything in an unsettling half-light. All ships report status, she ordered. A cacophony of responses echoed in her ears. The fleet was intact, mostly, but there were anomalies, unexplained readings. It wasn't just that the enemy was gone. It was that something else had taken their place. Admiral, Kova's voice trembled. There's something on our sensors. Not Zirathi. It's not even human. Voss's stomach twisted. Define? Not human. Multiple signatures, scattered. They're not coming from one ship. They're coming from the ground. The images on the tactical map shifted, and Voss felt a chill run down her spine. The fleet had dropped into orbit around the Zirathi homeworld, a place once teeming with alien activity, a bustling hub of enemy ships and weapons. Now, the world looked eerily abandoned. But the ground beneath it, the ground was alive with something. Captain, Voss snapped, turning to the communications officer. Can we get a live feed from the surface? Captain Morrow hesitated. I'm afraid not, Admiral. The surface is completely cut off. Static interference. No transmissions are getting through. Voss swallowed, staring at the planet below. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, monitored. They weren't alone, and something far darker awaited them. Activate forward probes, she commanded. We're going in. I want a full tactical sweep of the surface. Whatever is down there, we need to know what we're dealing with. Kova's hands flew over his console. Aye, ma'am. Probes launched. Moments later, the first images flickered onto the main screen. A barren wasteland, cities burned to ash, ruins scattered across vast plains. Voss's pulse quickened. The Zirathi had built something here. Something vast, complex, a war machine like none other. But now it was empty. And yet, the scans showed something else. Faint traces of movement. No sign of alien life, but something biological was lurking under the surface. What the hell are they hiding? A deep tremor shook the ship, followed by an explosion that rocked the fleet. It wasn't a ship-wide attack. It was something different. Voss grabbed the edge of her console to steady herself, her heart pounding. Report! Something's coming from the surface, Kova shouted, his eyes wide. It's rising up from the planet. On the tactical map, the symbols of human warships vanished one by one. The enemy had never come from space. They had come from the ground. Now question is, what exactly is lurking beneath the surface of the Zirathi homeworld? What is rising up from the planet, and how will it impact the fleet? Echoes of Earth. The surface of the Zirathi homeworld trembled as if something deep beneath it was alive. Voss felt the vibration through her boots, the hum of the ship's engines becoming distant, as if her own pulse was beating in sync with the planet's ominous thrum. "Report!" Voss barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. Kova's fingers flew across his console, sweat trickling down his temple. "Admiral, we've detected massive tectonic activity beneath the surface. It's not natural. There's something artificial happening down there." Something is rising, and fast. Rising. It was the only word that made sense, but it didn't prepare them for what happened next. The entire fleet's lights flickered, casting the command bridge in sudden shadows. The ominous thrum of the planet's movements intensified, and then, without warning, a massive pulse of energy shot up from the surface. The Intrepid's shields blared, struggling to contain the surge. Voss steadied herself, gripping the console with white knuckles. "Evasive maneuvers. All ships, brace for impact." A deafening crash filled the ship. Then another. The ship lurched, sideways as if something had violently struck the hull. Voss was thrown forward, but she caught herself on a railing, heart hammering. "Status report." Morrow, the captain, staggered up, his face pale. "Admiral, it's worse than we thought. The pulse came from beneath the surface. But it's not just a weapon. It's something more. The entire fleet's shields are down, and the ships are losing power." Voss swallowed hard. "What's causing the energy surge?" Kova's hands were shaking. It's like a signal. A massive energy field is expanding from deep within the planet, and before he could finish, the screen in front of them exploded with static. The flickering, broken image of an alien face appeared. "You shouldn't have come." The voice was distorted, almost mechanical. "You were never meant to be here." The transmission was brief, ending abruptly as it had begun. "Who was that?" Kova's voice trembled. It wasn't the Zirathi. That wasn't them. Voss's mind raced. That voice, familiar, unsettling, human. The last words echoed in her mind. "You were never meant to be here." "No," she whispered, eyes narrowing. "It can't be." Flashback to Earth. Her thoughts shattered for a moment, the pain of the past surging back. Earth had fallen, its skies blackened with the firestorms of 1,000 missile strikes. In the chaos, humanity had rallied. The forces had fought back. But it wasn't enough. The Zirathi came for them first. Voss remembered the final transmission from her wife, her face desperate as she whispered, "Kira, stay safe. I love you." And then, static. Her family was gone. But that voice, so familiar, like the one from Earth. Was that a signal from someone? "Back to the present, Admiral!" Kova's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. "We've got incoming signals from the fleet. Several ships are reporting strange energy readings. It's not the Zirathi, it's us. Some of our own ships." Voss' stomach clenched. "What are you trying to say, Lieutenant?" "They're firing on each other," Kova said, voice low. "It's as if they've gone rogue." Her heart skipped. Rogue ships. The signals came in waves. Desperate, frantic transmissions filled the air as ships in the fleet began firing on each other. The once cohesive human force was now unraveling before her eyes. "Cut off their transmissions!" Voss shouted. "Get a damage report!" Morrow's face drained of color. "Admiral, they're turning. The ships are turning toward the planet. They're—" Before he could finish, a terrifying realization hit Voss. "They're not under our control anymore." "We have to stop them," Voss said, her voice cold. "Get to the bridge of the Sovereign. Now." The Sovereign was a flagship, one of humanity's best and most powerful vessels. If the rogue ships were attacking in unison, It would be their first target. As Voss made her way down the ship's narrow halls, the flashes of gunfire illuminated the way, and the sounds of the fleet in chaos reverberated through her ears. She felt the weight of it all pressing down on her. Every step, every move, every decision she made could mean the end. Boarding the Sovereign, Voss entered the bridge of the Sovereign to a scene of frantic activity. The crew was scrambling, trying to contain the ship's defenses, but the power was unstable. Sparks flew from control panels. "Admiral, we're under attack," Captain Rick said, his voice steady, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. "It's like the ships are controlled by something else. There's an outside force." He didn't finish. The ship's hull groaned. The walls shook again. "Get us to the control center," Voss barked. "Now!" But as they raced through the corridors, a voice, cold, mechanical, crackled over the comms again. "The signal has already spread. The fleet is lost." Voss froze in place, heart racing. What the hell is going on? Now question is, what is controlling the fleet? How did this rogue force infiltrate the ships? What is the mysterious signal that's taking over humanity's own warships? Beyond the rift, the entire fleet was on the edge of collapse. Warships, once humanity's most advanced instruments of war, were now drifting, firing blindly at one another in a chaotic dance. The eerie pulse from the planet had spread like a virus, infecting the ship's systems, overriding their command structures, and leaving only a shell of the soldiers who once commanded them. Admiral Kira Voss felt the weight of it all. A fleet that was supposed to avenge Earth was now falling apart. As she raced down the corridors of the Sovereign, her mind raced just as fast. What had happened to their control? Her feet pounded against the metal floors, the sharp staccato echo of her boots almost drowned out by the constant hum of alarms. The crew she passed had already abandoned their posts, too terrified to stop the rogue ships. Her own ship was next. "Admiral!" Captain Ricks called from behind her, struggling to keep pace. "The entire fleet is about to fall into total disarray. If we don't regain control of the Sovereign, we're done." "We will regain control," Voss snapped, her voice hard, unyielding. "Get to the control center. Now!" The rift, they reached the control room in minutes, longer than Voss cared to admit. The door slid open to reveal the chaos inside. Console screens blinked erratically. The air was thick with tension. Every officer aboard was fighting to regain control, but it was a losing battle. The rogue ships had already locked their trajectories toward the planet. "Report!" Voss barked, taking charge immediately. "Admiral!" Commander Hall, the ship's lead engineer, looked up from a console. "We've isolated the source of the signal, but it's coming from beyond the planet's surface. A rift, some kind, of quantum anomaly. The signal is coming from within that rift." "A rift?" Voss asked, her voice steady despite the growing panic inside her. "What do you mean, rift?" Hall hesitated. "It's not just a wormhole. It's something else. A tear in space-time itself. The energy signatures are unlike anything we've ever seen. It's changing everything it touches." Voss's mind raced. A rift. Something beyond human understanding. The images on the screen shifted, showing a swirling mass of light and darkness where the planet used to be. Where the rift had opened, the laws of space seemed to bend, reality warping like the surface of a calm lake disturbed by an unseen force. This was their enemy. A dangerous choice. Voss walked toward the large viewing port and stared out at the anomaly. It was growing, expanding, sending waves of distortion outward. Her eyes narrowed. "We need to destroy that rift, or we lose everything." Voss's words were cold, calculated. "We can't just destroy it, ma'am," Hall protested. "This isn't just a portal. It's a rift, a tear in the fabric of space-time itself. If we try to attack it, we might just rip open reality." Voss turned to face him, her face hard with resolve. "And if we don't attack it, we lose our fleet and our chance at survival." She glanced at the tactical display, which was flashing, with alarming frequency. The enemy ships, those that were still under control, were now advancing toward the rift. It wasn't just a battlefield anymore. The rift was the battlefield. A cold shiver ran down her spine as she realized what the rift was doing. It was pulling the warships toward it. The signal had changed everything. The fleet wasn't being controlled by some external force. They were all being drawn in. Slowly, as if the rift were feeding on them, warping their minds, their decisions. Something inside that rift had taken control. The choice is made. "Admiral," Commander Rick said, his voice trembling slightly. "We've received a transmission. It's a distress call. But it's not from our fleet. It's from another ship." Voss's stomach twisted. Another voice. Human. "Put it through," she ordered, her voice tight. The image flickered on the screen. A lone figure stood in front of a dimly lit console. The voice that came through was strained, fearful. "This is Commander Philip Xander of the Liberty. We're trapped. The fleet, they're not themselves. They're being pulled into the rift. Whatever's inside it. It's controlling us. We can't break free. You have to destroy the rift. If you don't, we'll all become—" The transmission cut out, the image going to static. Voss's pulse quickened. Commander Xander. She knew that name. She had fought alongside him during the early days of the war. He was one of Earth's brightest commanders. To hear his voice now, filled with desperation, sent a ripple of cold dread through her chest. "We have to stop this," she said, almost to herself. "We have to stop whatever is in that rift, or we lose everything." But as the rift pulsed again, stronger this time, her thoughts were interrupted by the unmistakable sound of ships approaching. It wasn't just the rogue ships anymore. The rift was opening wider. Voss's hand gripped the command console, her voice low but clear. "Prepare the fleet. We go in. No more waiting." But then, as the rift expanded once more, an inhuman voice crackled through the ship's comms. "You were never meant to come here, Admiral Voss. The war you're fighting is a distraction. We are the beginning. You will become part of us." Voss stood frozen, heart racing, her mind reeling. They were too late. And now, the battle for humanity's survival was just beginning. Now question is, what exactly is inside the rift? And how? Are they controlling the fleet? What is the true purpose of the rift? And why were humanity's efforts a distraction? Can Voss stop the rift before it pulls them all in? The forgotten code. The rift pulsed ominously, the black void before them expanding in terrifying waves, as if the universe itself was being torn apart. The comms crackled with static and incoherent voices. The rogue ships, their once proud war machines, drifted helplessly toward it, controlled not by their crews, but by the force within. Admiral Voss stood at the helm of the Sovereign, her gaze fixed on the rift. The lights in the command room flickered, casting long shadows across the faces of the crew. There was no time for hesitation. If humanity was going to survive this, they had to act fast. The rift was growing stronger, and with every pulse, the fleet was losing its battle for control. "Admiral, we've detected a shift in the rift's energy," Commander Rick said, his voice tight with tension. He scanned the data on his console, his hands trembling. "It's becoming unstable. It's evolving. Whatever is inside is trying to break through into our reality." Voss clenched her jaw. The clock was ticking, and every second mattered. But she couldn't shake the feeling that the rift wasn't the true enemy. The source of the problem was much deeper. "Prepare to deploy probes," she ordered. "We need to know exactly what's on the other side of that rift. We can't stop it if we don't. Understand it." The probe. The first probe was launched, its sleek body slicing through the vacuum of space and toward the rift's jagged edges. Voss watched as it entered the anomaly, its signal fading the instant it crossed the threshold. It was a mere blip on the radar before it was lost to the void. Voss's mind raced. Send another one. We need answers. Another probe, and another. Each one disappeared without a trace, their data signals wiped from existence the moment they touched the rift's surface. Voss's frustration mounted. They were running out of time, and the answers they needed were slipping through their fingers. "Admiral, we've received a transmission. It's encrypted." Kova's voice crackled through her earpiece, bringing a rare moment of hope. "Put it through." The image that flickered on the screen was a distortion, static, broken images, and then a voice that sent a chill down Voss's spine. "Admiral Voss, you are not meant to be here, but it's not too late." It was a voice she recognized, though it had been years since she last heard it. Commander Philip Xander. His image flickered on the screen, his eyes wide, his face drawn with fatigue. He looked like a man who had been through hell, and worse. "Xander, where are you? What's happening?" Voss demanded, her voice sharp. She had to know what was going on. She had to understand. Xander's face flickered again, his words coming in broken bursts. "You have to listen. The rift, it's not just a weapon, it's a prison. The Zerathi, they didn't make it. They opened it by mistake. We unleashed something else. The rift is holding something in." The transmission broke again, static filling the bridge. Voss's heart pounded in her chest. A prison? A weapon? What was Xander trying to say? What's inside the rift? Voss demanded, her voice almost desperate. Xander's figure appeared again, his voice trembling. "It's not something you can fight. It's the forgotten code. The architects of reality, the ones who created everything. And they're awake. Now, a revelation Voss's mind reeled. The forgotten code, architects of reality. She had heard rumors, old tales from long before the war, the kinds of myths scientists dismissed as impossibilities, ancient powers, capable of shaping reality itself. But none of it had ever seemed relevant, not until now. "You need to stop. It." Xander's voice was firm, despite the fear in his eyes. "It's not about defeating them. It's about closing the rift. You can't let them through." The transmission cut off, leaving Voss staring at the flickering screen, her mind buzzing with more questions than answers. The architects of reality, the forgotten code. What did it all mean? How did the Zerathi or the humans unlock such an unspeakable power? Rix's voice broke through her thoughts. "Admiral, we've detected movement within the rift." Voss's heart skipped. What kind of movement? A swirling shape began to form at the center of the rift, massive and unfathomable, dark tendrils, stretching outward like the fingers of some cosmic god. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, vast, ancient, and incomprehensibly powerful. Something that defied everything humanity had ever known. The architect's touch. "It's happening," Voss whispered, her breath catching in her throat. "It's real." The shape inside the rift grew, pulling itself further into their reality. Voss could feel it. The air itself seemed to thicken, as if the rift was altering the very fabric of space-time around them. "Prepare all ships for immediate evacuation," Voss ordered, her voice cold and calculating. "We're shutting down everything. The rift isn't just a weapon, it's a doorway, and we're not walking through it." But it was too late. The shape was moving too fast, closing in on them. There was no escape. They had come too far, and now the rift was pulling them in, along with every ship in the fleet. As the rift grew larger, Voss's mind raced with a singular thought. If she didn't act. "Now humanity was doomed, Admiral," Kova shouted from his station, panic evident in his voice. "The rift, it's pulling us in. All ships are being dragged toward it. We can't stop it." Voss turned to face him, her mind focused and sharp. "We don't stop it. We close." How?" Voss stared at the massive anomaly expanding before them. "I don't know," she said, her voice quiet. "But we'll find a way. We have no choice." Unanswered question. What are the architects of reality, and why is the rift connected to them? Can Voss close the rift in time to save humanity, or is it already too late? We endure. The rift loomed larger than ever, an expanding wound in the fabric of the universe. It pulsed with an otherworldly energy, pulling everything in its vicinity toward it. Ships, light, even the air itself seemed to bend around it. There was no more time for questions, no more time for plans. Admiral Kira Voss stood on the bridge of the Sovereign, eyes fixed on the heart of the rift. Every second brought them closer to oblivion. The fleet was helpless, drifting toward the abyss. Her heart raced, but her mind was steady. This was the final choice: fight for humanity's survival, or become part of whatever monstrous force awaited beyond the rift. Voss didn't know if they could close the rift, or if it was even possible to fight what was on the other side. But she knew one thing for certain. They had no choice but to try. "Admiral," Commander Rick said, his voice trembling, "the fleet is out of control. The ships, the crew, they can't break free. They're all being pulled into the rift." Voss turned to face him. "We're not giving up," she said, her voice unwavering. "This is our fight. We'll end it together." She turned to her. "Tactical officers, get me a direct line to every ship in the fleet. We need to stop this now." Kova's fingers flew over his console, but his face twisted with worry. "Admiral, we've tried everything. The signal, whatever's inside the rift, has already affected too many ships. We can't stop it." Voss gritted her teeth. She knew he was right. But there was one final option left, one final risk. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot they had. "I'm initiating a fleet-wide override," Voss said, her voice cold and determined. "We're taking the fight to the heart of the rift. Kova, prepare the Sovereign for direct assault." The room fell silent. Every officer knew what this meant. Voss was about to lead them into the unknown, into the heart of the rift. It was a suicide mission, but it was humanity's last chance. "We're going in," Voss repeated, her voice echoing in the command room. The final assault. The fleet moved as one. Every remaining warship, every soldier aboard, was part of the final charge. Voss's hands tightened around the command console. The rift was pulling them closer with every moment. They couldn't fight the pull, but they could fight what came from it. And if the Sovereign could break through, maybe, just maybe, the rest of the fleet would have a chance to escape. "Brace for impact," Voss ordered. "We're making our final push." The Sovereign surged forward, engines roaring to life. The ship's hull groaned under the strain as it accelerated toward the rift. Voss felt the ship tremble beneath her feet, the entire vessel fighting against the pull of the anomaly. Suddenly, the rift exploded with light, a burst of energy so intense that the Sovereign was thrown back, the force slamming Voss into her chair. The fleet rocked with the shockwave, ships tumbling through space as if they were nothing more than debris. But Voss refused to give up. She pushed through the pain, her fingers flying over the console as she worked to stabilize the ship. "Get us back on course," she ordered, her voice a lifeline in the chaos. The rift was opening wider now, its tendrils reaching out, almost alive. As they neared the center, Voss's breath caught in her throat. There, in the heart of the rift, she saw it, a figure, a massive, towering presence, its shape indescribable, made of darkness and light, both alien and familiar. It was as if the universe itself had taken form. Its presence filled her mind, its voice echoing in her thoughts. "You think you can stop me?" Voss's heart raced. It was speaking to her, but it wasn't just a voice. It was an idea, a force, a presence that transcended space and time. The architects of reality, the forgotten code. But Voss was not afraid. "We will not become part of you," she said, her voice unwavering. The final choice. The rift pulsed again, sending another wave of energy crashing through the fleet. Voss staggered, but didn't fall. She stood, her eyes fixed on the figure in the center of the rift. "You have no place here," she said. "Humanity will never submit to you." In a desperate move, Voss activated the ship's main reactor, setting it to overload. It was their only chance, a final, desperate attempt to close the rift. The energy it would release could destabilize the rift's core, but it would come at a cost. The Sovereign, and possibly the entire fleet, would be destroyed in the process. Voss hit the final button. "We endure," she whispered. The Sovereign's reactor roared to life, sending shockwaves of energy toward the rift. The figure inside the rift screamed in fury, its form distorting as the energy slammed into it. The rift began to collapse. A new beginning. For a moment, everything was silent. The stars outside the ship's windows flickered, and the rift's presence began to fade, its power weakening, then vanishing altogether. The ships that had been pulled into the rift, the ships that had been lost, were freed. The fleet was no longer under its influence, but the cost had been immense. The Sovereign was in pieces, barely holding together. The remaining ships, battered and broken, limped through the void, but they had survived. Voss stood on the bridge, her body aching, her mind numb. The battle was over. Humanity had endured. "We did it," Kova said, his voice hoarse with disbelief. Voss looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of everything that had happened, everything they had lost. "We endure," she said softly. The fleet had survived, but the war was not over, and humanity, no matter what came next, would face it together. Humanity's strength has been tested, but the war is far from over. If you want to see where this fight goes next, hit like, comment, Humanity FK yeah, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Until next time, remember, we endure.